Good morning. As I'm talking to you here on a Sunday morning about 9:20, as Coach Barton would say, "Good morning, happy campers." So, what I'm going to attempt to do, hopefully, is just give you a little bit of a review in order for the test, some extra things that may help you as you're studying. Biggest thing is study. Study, read, go over the charts. But on top of that, I'm going to try to give you some other things that may help you with this video. One of the first things, obviously, aerobic versus anaerobic. As I look through the test, obviously about half the test is based off of just that simple concept and knowing where they occur. So the first thing you'll need to know is where they occur. Obviously, glycolysis happens, the breakdown of glucose, the splitting of glucose, no oxygen. I like this diagram because it happens in the cytosol or the cytoplasm. The end products then move in the mitochondria. Here's the oxidation of pyruvic acid. That would be that step right here. What happens there? Net gain of nothing. Absolutely nothing. It just prepares it for the next stage. It goes into the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle, same thing. And a couple big things to note there. How much net ATP is produced there? 2 net ATP here, net 2 here. It's going to cost us, obviously it's going to cost us 2. So we get a total of 4, but our net, key is net 2. And then the electron transport chain is the big payoff. That's 34. That's where it happens. So that the box that you guys got at the beginning of this from our very first video, I'd watch that again. Knowing where they occur, what happens, that is going to get you at least 10 multiple choice questions on this test. Remember, everybody does glycolysis. Every living thing on our planet does glycolysis. Just whether or not you do the rest of it, pyruvic acid oxidation and the Krebs cycle depends on if there's oxygen. Some species can't. One of the questions that people ask is, well, what can you do? Well, here's a couple different types of fermentation. Obviously, lactic acid right here. This is what we do. Okay. Then you also have the alcohol fermentation, which is the most common here. Biggest thing is knowing who does it, the differences, and that formula that I taught you. The biggest thing when it looks, how do you tell if it's lactic acid fermentation or alcohol fermentation or aerobic respiration? First thing, if you see an O2 on this side of the arrow, it has to be aerobic. If it's no O2 there, then it has to be anaerobic, and it's either lactic acid or alcohol. Then on the other side, once you do that, look for the CO2. If you see a CO2, you automatically know it has to be ethanol fermentation. Obviously, the other big part was photosynthesis, knowing the two parts of that, where oxygen's required, where water's required and where oxygen's given off. That's in the light reaction. Carbon dioxide doesn't enter until the dark or the Calvin cycle, and that's where the sugar is produced. This simple diagram, pausing this, studying this, knowing this is crucial. Light reactions, where does it happen? Those are the thylakoids. This is in the stroma. Knowing where these things happen, that's it for photosynthesis. If you can know this diagram through and through, you get a bunch of questions right on the test. All right, I did my best to kind of scratch those things off. There will be a diagram like this, maybe not identical to this, but like this on the test. Questions that I know I'll ask that you should know, and this would be a good review for you right now, so you can pause it, think about it, check your answers in a second. Which letter is pointing to the stroma in the chloroplast? So you look at this image, A, B, or C, which one is the stroma? Well, the stroma is obviously the liquid, so the correct answer is A. Very good. Kyle and Kyle, way to get that one right. Duncan, you too. Which letter is pointing to the thylakoid? Now, the thylakoid are the discs where the photosynthesis occurs, and the correct answer is B. Thylakoid is B. What is pointing to a grana? Granas are stacks of thylakoid. The correct answer is C. The next question, where does the dark reaction occur of photosynthesis? In this case, a dark reaction, also known as a Calvin cycle, happens in the liquid, so the answer would be A. Another question that I could ask off of that, which letter is pointing to the area where the light reaction of photosynthesis occurs? The light reaction happens on the thylakoids themselves. Here, 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 all those places. So the correct answer would be B. Which letter is pointed to the area where the sugars are synthesized? Correct answer there. Sugars are made during the dark reaction, so the answer would be A. Very good. Which letters point to the area where water is split? Well, you got to think of where is water split. Water is brought in during the light reaction, so then the correct answer would be B as in boy. Which letter is pointed to the area where CO2 is needed? In the dark reaction of photosynthesis, CO2 is brought in and sugar is produced. The dark reaction happens in A. So if you got that part down, that is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions that I might have read verbatim. Verbatim! Now what I have here, now granted things aren't capitalized, but this is a question that could be from the test. And basically what I'm asking is what's going on here? So first off, let's label these things. That right there is what? The correct answer is glucose. Obviously we know what oxygen, there's our oxygen, ADP and PI. Two things. When you take ADP and PI, when you put those together, it's going to require what? Anytime you build anything, it requires energy, and therefore, taking in of energy is an endergonic reaction. Endergonic. So we need to input energy here. We need to get energy put into this equation. And then we're going to get carbon dioxide, water, and the unknown. The question is, what is the unknown? Okay? Well, don't overthink it. What are we making here? We're taking this and this. It's not accounted for here. So the unknown is ATP, ATP. Right? That's it. The cache of the cell, the most important thing, it's right there. What is this reaction? Well, some people might say, was it photosynthesis? Is it fermentation? How do I know it's not fermentation? The reason I know it's not fermentation is we had oxygen. Anytime there's oxygen present, you know it's not. The correct answer would be cellular respiration. Cellular respiration. And the process, this reaction, where does it begin? Well, remember there's 4 steps in order for this to happen. Glycolysis, oxidation of pyruvic acid, citric acid cycle, and the electron transport chain. This is just the first step. Where does the first step happen? That happens in the cytosol. The rest of them happen in the mitochondria. Okay? And then at the end, how much net ATP is produced? Oxygen's present, take sugar. How much net? The end game, the net ATP is 36. Okay? That's an important part of the test. All I'm going to do now for the rest of the time on this video is I'm going to read off with some possible questions without the multiple choice, letting you figure them out yourself. All right, so good questions that I could ask would be, during glycolysis, how many ATP are used and how many are synthesized? How many ATP are used? How many are synthesized? Other good questions to have. Cellular respiration is how many times more efficient than glycolysis alone? Cellular respiration is how many times more efficient than glycolysis alone? Now it's a multiple choice, but if you can figure that out right now in your head, 18, you should be pretty good to go. ATP synthesis, the making of ATP. Okay, anytime you build something, it requires energy. Therefore, the correct answer is, it's an example of what type of reaction? Endergonic, taking in of energy to make something. When you build something, you need energy in. Endergonic. If I had a formula that was like C6H12O6 plus ADP and PI yields 2CH3CHOOHO COOH plus 4 ATP. What type of reaction is it? Well, the first thing is, notice there's no oxygen, so it has to be a type of fermentation. No carbon dioxide, so this has to be, I'll let you figure it out on your own. All right. Anaerobic process, where does it take place? All living things do it. Where in the cell does anaerobic process take place? In other words, where does glycolysis take place? What's another name for the Calvin cycle? Questions on where things occur. Another name for the citric acid cycle. All really good questions. Blank is splitting during blank of photosynthesis. What do we split in photosynthesis? Well, first we only split one thing, H2O, and just realize what part of photosynthesis it occurs at. What is a good metaphor that we talked about in class for photosynthesis and how it works? Well, we use the heavyweights. Okay, so what it is, heavyweights, you got the old blob, remember? And we said the sunlight hits here, shoots up an electron. As the electron falls back down, it releases energy. That would be a good metaphor for photosynthesis. Where are carotenoids found? Well, we did a lab over this. Where do we extract them from? From fruits and flowers and things like that. So carotenoids are found in fruits and flowers. This is what gives flowers the color and things like that. And what is the energy of activation? How much do we need to get it going? That's a question to think about. I'm out. I've given you a bunch of materials to kind of review and know, and I literally read off about 20 questions for the exam. Prepare, put in time. I think this is a great opportunity for you to do really well on the exam. So please, all of you listening to me, when you're done with this video, study, study, study. I want you to do well, okay? Nothing would make me happier than you guys doing well on this test. So have a great weekend. Watch the Browns win. See you guys on Monday and Tuesday.